Anita, thank you so much for the introduction. It is a pleasure to be part of this panel. I met you some years back, and it is really all of you to be an honor to be here and to have known you and to work with you. I have my deepest admiration for all of you as women, as artists, as art administrators, and as an emerging scholar. So we're delighted to be participating in this idea of home is gold. And this is a theme that we have been exploring for some years. We had a panel at the Latino Art Now conference a year ago in which we explored this idea of what is home, what is the main themes that appear in the work of Iliana Emilia and Cherizade. So this is a wonderful display of some of the interpretation of visual memory. What is memory? What is home? How do we belong? And what you said makes homeland. What is homeland? And how we perceive being away from that homeland, what we envision and what is our memory about. So I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation, focused from the point of view of the artist, and looking at all these polarizing moments, the migration, the immigration, what is happening right now, and all the fear that exists out there in the community. So this is very important, these ideas of settlement, these ideas of dislocation, displacement, and replacement. So we'll have a very interesting conversation, and I'm going to pass this to Abigail.
You have one? Okay. Thanks to Nisa and to the artist, to Olga herself, to Marcos, to Taller for having us here. I did start my first job out of college actually was here, and I was the program assistant. And it was at the height of the recession. And I was so grateful to have a job, but it was also one of the most amazing and craziest experiences of my life. So I've never had as crazy an experience actually after that. But I was very lucky to work here and see what an amazing impact Taller has, not only on the community, but on emerging Latino artists throughout New York City and beyond. So I'm so happy to be back and honored to be back here. And through that experience, I've developed, and thanks to Olga also, a scholarship on Latino art and specifically Dominican American art. My father's Dominican, aunque no se nota.
But for this one, we actually we talk a lot, usually. So, anyways, there is a lot of storytelling in our work, and we actually always talk about tradition, family, the history, the ancestors, the DNA test, where you're coming from, you look like who, I look like her, we are sisters, sometimes people think that we're not sisters, but anyways, there's a lot of talking and the same concepts, only that the product of the concepts are completely different. And our work is extremely different, but the story is always the same. And that's actually when we always agree. But we're trying to get a title that will actually combine my work with her work. And home is always there. Gold is already in her work, and I actually against gold. I'm a silver kind of girl. It's true, even true. And not because I don't like gold, it's just for some reason, gold for me is like hot, and it melts, and it changes. And silver is cold, and for me, when you are cold, it's a preservation concept. Like, if you want to live longer, you got to get frozen and stay the same. And this idea of getting intact something is important for me. So I'm always silver because almost like I want to keep certain memories intact, with the idea that so many things are getting lost that the only way for me to do it is almost like putting in ice. And everything has some kind of silver thing to me. So the home for me is, at the beginning was something physical. It's a, you always think, you want to go home. But it has changed completely. Not because I have changed, it's because really that word home, what does it mean? Where is home exactly? Is it a physical thing, or is it something that you have in your head or in your heart? And it seems that I carry with me so many things with me all the time that they are not really valuable. But for me, it represents everything. So it seems that home is what I am. And home is the memory that I have of where I'm coming from. So the exhibition came out, I think, in an organic way. It's almost like try to make sure who's actually very outside home with me that I'm very inside home, and everything with me is completely from within. And that's kind of how we actually got to this title that kind of combined. Definitely this is something very new, that it was the way that I composed that installation with the inner tubes. Usually the inner tubes is that universal order that I built, and it's like stacking the inner tubes together, and then they are putting those suitcase tags that are with the image of the Statue of Liberty. And that Statue of Liberty, if you pay attention to those paintings that were in the background, it was a whole process too. The Statue of Liberty, that especially was commissioned by Gilberto Cárdenas for a conference in New York. And again, we were talking about this idea of like when we come from the island of La Española to the island of Manhattan, you know, and you see this Statue of Liberty embracing everybody. And I never believe anything like that. I am super, like, for some reason, optimistic and so positive. I am very, very sarcastic when it comes to political propaganda. You know, I was thinking to myself, you know, if, you know, that's why I started. If you want to talk the talk, you know, you have to walk the walk. So then this Statue of Liberty has to embrace of colors. That's why she is cinnamon. Because when you mix all the colors of a palette, that already is an action of inclusion. So then my Statue of Liberty really wants to be embracing everybody, so she has to be cinnamon, okay? So that's the reason those tags have that. So if you want to go to me about this island full of opportunities and this new concept of a nation full of freedom, you know, and perfect for riches, you're gonna really walk on God, the sidewalks, then you got to be really walk the walk. So that's like part of that idea of like, I bring that Baroquism that it was imposed to us, but also we transform with the American experience in the Caribbean, and, you know, after the discovery of America. And, you know, all that is, again, is this, there is something very, like, embracing a love and how proud I am of so many things that represents to people from this continent, but also it's always this rebelliousness, you know, that is also part of the American experience. So all that is together in the work. Even in the mix of race, for example, some of the paintings you can see the mulatas and al blonde. That is also that experience of the inclusiveness that starts in the Caribbean, you know, that really opens up the conversation of really a freedom of and diversity and inclusion. So that for me makes sense for home. I was thinking about the chairs because I realized that now in this exhibition my chairs are now real chairs that you can sit. Usually I always have a chair that actually you can actually sit, and it's like, it's just, you know, it's definitely on the ground. And I was, in my process of using the chair, that it was this thing that, I always think that when you have a chair and a table, meaning that you're settled, meaning that you're in a place and you're going to spend time there, and the moment that you spend time in one place, your history stops and it's all over again, because you're always going to say, after I stop here, I went there. When people didn't have chairs, they will be moving around all over, and they didn't have this icon that will just kind of tell them stop for a second. The chairs have become pretty organic lately, because the chairs doesn't represent for me anything geographic. It becomes, if you think of as the chair as your person, and we are so organic and we keep changing and evolving and changing the history and forgetting what we remember and remembering what we forgot, we become this changing entity that doesn't have a real shape, or is a person of many shapes. So the chairs that you cannot see it anymore because they have become puppets. Not because they're puppets, it's because we are becoming, like, we are so different, all of us, that the moment that we actually start thinking, I may be one way and you're another, but we are still people, and we most likely going to have the same feelings and most likely the same problems. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. The humans are always the same. We feel, we want, we desire, we have longings, we feel the distance, and that's exactly what the chairs are. My things.
Yeah, you brought a point that I was going to make, that it's very interesting that your sisters, that and the work, yeah, is so different, and you take different approaches in the creative and the creative spirit that they represent. So I wanted to ask you, can you talk more about the creative process and the writing that you use in your paintings? Because there's always, it's the object, but it's this idea of having names, of having words in most of them. So how about you have the visual, but also you have the literary. Can you talk to us about that and the process that how does it work?
I think words are extremely important for me. I react to words and I react to meanings. And my favorite book is a dictionary. And the problem with that is that since I was small, I had this problem expressing myself, because I thought like, when I say something, did I really find the right words to say exactly what I was feeling? And I always had this dissatisfaction with me, like, I don't think I said exactly what I wanted to say. And I feel it right now. Do I say exactly what I want to say? But anyways, that's another thing. So there are certain words for me that they really say a lot in a very little space. Like words like here, there, far, close, tomorrow, today. There are these words that really means more than actually what they look when I see them. And my process, I really actually write before I actually sketch. Some writings are really old, sometimes are really new, but I have this necessity of putting things on paper and see them, and they become drawings, really. A lot of the writing, you can read it, and because when I actually doing work, I change my mind about something and realize I found something that, something, that word means more than I thought it meant. So my perspective of the word changes, so the story keeps growing and growing and growing. But it's also a need that I have of writing or telling, but not saying. I'm definitely a better writer than a talker, definitely. I would say that, but that's what people say that. But I just, it's just a tool for me. And I just sometimes, I need the definitions, and I just like the power that the words have. That's why I'm so careful when you write, when you talk. You have to be so careful how you, with numbers, if you change the order of the numbers, sometimes it's the same product. But with the words, completely changes the meaning of everything. And knowing that my way of being political is not even being political, but I like the soap opera part of the politics. Like exactly what is the personal story behind big decisions. So sometimes a comma and a period will change completely the history of the world for me. So that's what keeps me going, and that's what keeps me writing and doing, because I kind of how things changes according to where I put the punctuation. So it's an endless, it becomes an endless process, it never stops. And I don't know, I keep going.
And I have a similar question to Chirizade, because I met Chirizade precisely with that commission for the IUPLR conference that I called her. And I remember meeting Fernando Salicruz's place, and she's showing all these preparatory drawings about that commission of the Statue of Liberty and talk to talk, walk to walk.
Yes.
And it was fascinating, but there you're using some calligraphy and some words. So can you tell us more about that and how different it is from your paintings?
Yes, thank you. This is funny. Ileana and I, obviously, and we always talk about that Ileana is from the inside and I am the outside. We overlap a lot. We all think about composition. The way that I compose the paintings and how I retell history to it. But everything is this memory and how we change this history of everything by the way we compose it, by the importance we give this or that, and even the color you give to images that we are used to see a certain ways, and then you play it and you transform it. So we have that in common, and also many things in common. It's like, for example, this need, in my case, to seduce the audience with something that is beautiful. We both have this need for beautiful things. There is this thing of when we're writing or we're drawing, it's always like you don't know if you're drawing of writing, Because in my case, and so many days, yeah, I know we talk about this, like, oh, we have to use this word because look how beautiful it's written. Because it's just the composition of everything. It is same thing with the paintings. It's just that in this way, I want to talk about issues that sometimes are not that easy. You know, the talking about those memories of conversations about race. When you are having lunch in Dominican Republic, everybody's sweating. You know, and nobody really wants to talk about discrimination, about race, about who is the black girl in the family, you know, who is the poor, or who is, you know, the person that left. It's something that my sister and I, we became more Dominican after we came to New York.
So
You know?
I never thought about it until I realized, oh man, I have to, in English, explain my country and be, you know, it's a big responsibility. And you know, you become very sensitive to certain icons, and then that's when you start thinking, oh my God, my flag is beautiful, and I miss food, I mean, I miss the landscape, and people say, oh my God, how could you leave that island to come here? I'm thinking, I didn't think so like, I mean, I didn't was thinking like that. I still love my country, it's still beautiful, I mean, but you become responsible in a different way. And in fact, I started defending so many Dominican things just because I realized, you know, I took it for granted. History, like I was very specific. When someone says something wrong, like someone mentioned Christopher Columbus and he landed in a different, I was like, wait. And almost like when people say Española, I get very proud. But also, I mean, it's almost like you kind of get very picky. But I was picky because I was here. And a lot of people say, okay, and then in my work, I never use, I don't think when I was there, I actually created any word that I actually can say that I was like so proud of. Because I didn't need to talk about home because I was there. And at that point, that was what I knew. The moment I left is when I realized that I have two homes. I have the one that I was born and the one that I was leaving. And now I have three homes because now it's the one that I remember, the one that I was born. So that concept of home is evolving and growing, and there are so many of them. And I realized that I can actually say physically, okay, I was born here and I live in New York. My daughter happens to live, was in New York, but her father is from Macedonia, I'm from Dominican, so she's carrying three plus the one that she's going to build. So that concept of carrying home with you is always what we always talk about. It's almost like, and I love it, because at the end it makes everybody the same, and that's when you realize that there are no differences. The differences are very, visas, passports, paperwork, that at the end don't really define you at all. I mean, I became an American citizen, but I never stopped being Dominican. I'm never going to stop being Dominican. There's so much history behind me, and too much, you know, melting pot in the Caribbean that I cannot just say, you know. The American defines me as the America that I like, the inclusive America, the one that we have our home now. So we always want to have these conversations that keep going and going.
And Emilia, one thing that we on the verge of a revolution, but you remember that now more than ever, we're always questioning, well, I am against flags completely. You know, talking about frontiers, you know, that's like, I am getting very, very like, you know, weird with flags. This is like this idea that you have to become this team. What about me that feel connected to so many things? And that's what happened when you come from the Caribbean too. There are so many colors in your skin that it is impossible to kind of like set this place of the only space you belong to. You know, it has to be wider. You know, this experience is wider and deeper. So I think it's also part of this situation of why we see home so enormous.
You know, we have this panel, we have the little bit of the Tainos, we have the slaves who came from Africa, we have Dutch, we have Chinese, we have Japanese, we have Jewish, French. So at the point, I mean, how am I supposed to look? Home is the whole world, because if I took my DNA, like happened to Cherezade, that's a funny story. Cherezade wanted to be Chinese.
I always want to be Chinese.
Because we have people that actually look definitely Asian. And Cheresate, since she was small, she was drawing, Chinese kids, I mean, everything, the red, she loved it.
I love it.
So she gets el DNA, she gets el DNA test results. It's nothing.
So she, no, I was like, Iliana, do it. So if you have it, I'm gonna take that.
got me.
Material and paint, but also silk screen and work. One thing you said earlier that struck me is this idea of preservation. But I feel like you both, in a sense, challenge preservation. You challenge this whatever concept of authenticity that is dominant nowadays. And I was wondering what you thought about that.
Thing with losing or keeping alive. That's why for me documentation is so important, and that's why I keep writing and typing and printing the words, because I have the thing that things have to be kept somewhere so someone can read it and someone will know the history. Before people will talk, everything will be oral stories, and they will get lost when the person was gone. And there are so many stories that are lost. Even when you talk so much with someone, tells you so much, there's always something that gets lost. And that idea of losing something important, that may be important for me, doesn't let me sleep. And the chairs are actually, usually, chairs are, people sit in chairs, and usually people are sitting and talking and telling stories. So the chairs are becoming almost like my document of, especially because chairs have a very organic shapes, they have arms, they have legs, and they're using a lot, especially the handmade chairs that I usually use for my photograph. There is so much history in that little piece that it seems not to have any value, because it's just basically a chair that they get broken and they get thrown away. Right now they put it on fire to make fires, without thinking that they're putting a work of art that was made by hand. And how many stories were told in that chair? So that idea of preserving, and the fact that I know that we think that memory is infinite, we think that we're always going to have our memory, and it's not true. That idea of losing, I need to write more and I have to document more just because of that. So it's an obsession that I have with it. And I like this here screening, because the screening gives you the thing of producing the same thing over and over and over. And I like the idea of, it's not that I want to be redundant what I say, but it makes me feel better about myself that I'm kind of keeping that intact. Kind of.
Even when you think things disappear, it's like they come afloat. And it's again this experience of coming from the island and coming to another island and be surrounded by water. And the fact that this back and forth of the wave is like it takes and it leaves, it takes but it leaves, so it's somehow, this enormous, as I call it, the mass of water, and I call the liquid highway. I call it the liquid highway because I love my work. If you have to go to my website because it's not here, you're gonna see a lot of work about the idea that water is a way out, an opportunity, a loose opportunity, but also it's an obstacle. So that's why everything that I do that is a sculpture, they're inflated devices. Because I am always very conscious that I have to float. But the thing is that the memories don't need the devices. The memories are always on the water, going from one place to another. Because as we come from a continent to another, we kind of bring a little something, and then we transform it, we make it new. And then we live again. So it's almost this constant evolving. So I always feel that even though I want to preserve, I have a whole body of work that is about covering the pieces in plastic. Remember those mattresses, baby mattresses? They were a whole body of work that is about this idea of how we do everything is possible not to get things old. Like those plastic furniture in the Caribbean, that you put the plastic, to make sure it's always going to be new. Well, I did a whole body of work with that concept. And I realized that this desire of mine to not forget, to keep like that, as I heard, like a photograph, I cannot fight nature, but then if I cannot fight it, I will kind of make peace with it, with the idea that it's always gonna come afloat in the water. So that's part of this relationship with the entire planet also. Someone tells you so much, there's always something that gets lost. And that idea of losing something important, that may be important for me, doesn't let me sleep. And the chairs are actually, usually, chairs are, people sit in chairs, and usually people are sitting and talking and telling stories. So the chairs are becoming almost like my document of, especially because chairs have a very organic shapes, they have arms, they have legs. And they're using a lot, especially the handmade chairs that I usually use for my photograph. There is so much history in that little piece that it seems not to have any value, because it's just basically a chair that they get broken and they get thrown away. Right now they put it on fire to make fires, without thinking that they're putting a work of art that was made by hand. And how many stories were told in that chair? So that idea of preserving, and the fact that I know that we think that memory is infinite, we think that we're always going to have our memory, and it's not true. That idea of losing, I need to write more and I have to document more just because of that. So it's an obsession that I have with it. And I like this year's screening, because the screening gives you the thing of producing the same thing over and over and over. And I like the idea of, it's not that I want to be redundant what I say, but it makes me feel better about myself than kind of keeping that intact. Kind of. Even when you think things disappear, it's like they come afloat. And it's again this experience of coming from the island and coming to another island and be surrounded by water. And the fact that this back and forth of the wave is like it takes and it leaves a little bit. It takes but it leaves, So it's somehow, this enormous, as I call it, the mass of water, and I call the liquid highway. I call it the liquid highway because I love my work. If you have to go to my website because it's not here, you're gonna see a lot of work about the idea that water is a way out, an opportunity, a loose opportunity, but also it's an obstacle. So that's why everything that I do that is a sculpture, they're inflated devices. Because I am always very conscious that I have to float. But the thing is that the memories don't need the devices. The memories are always on that water, going from one place to another. Because as we come from a continent to another, we kind of bring a little something, and then we transform it, we make it new. And then we live again. So it's almost this constant evolving. So I always feel that even though I want to preserve, I have a whole body of work that is about covering the pieces in plastic. Remember those mattresses, baby mattresses? They were a whole body of work, and it's about this idea of how we do everything is possible not to get things old. Like those plastic furniture in the Caribbean, then you put the plastic, to make sure it's always gonna be new. Well, I did a whole body of work with that concept. And I realized that this desire of mine to not forget, to keep like that, as like a photograph, I cannot fight nature, but then if I cannot fight it, I will kind of make peace with it, with the idea that it's always gonna come afloat in the water. So that's part of this relationship with the entire planet also.
Would you say that the concept of home is a challenge within a person that is in constant movement and is not a real one place or whatever, but it's a challenge inside a person and it's different for everybody?
Well, I see it for how I perceive home. My way of seeing it definitely is always evolving. There is no absolute anything, So it's always. Also, but I'm very optimistic, and I always thinking that there is something else I can learn, something else I can experience. I guess there is in me a joy of life. So the idea of movement constantly, it gives me this sense of forever alive, No, definitely. I mean, it's a constant search. Like I always said, it's almost like there are so many words in the dictionary that I can actually find tomorrow
I'm going to be back to my writing, but it's constantly changing because circumstances, landscapes, experiences, it makes you evolve too. So, what it was important for you 20 years ago may not be that important now. There is something completely new, but doesn't mean that you change. It's just that you kind of, you drag with you your baggage of memories, and then it's not a physical thing, definitely for me.
So it's inside.
It's completely inside. I mean, there are things that are always going to be important for me, and that always, but I add. It's like I add more and more and more, and I take some too.
I want to ask you, following this conversation that we're just having, the concept that Chirizade mentions about ancestral history, and I think it's very present in both your work. Ileana, can you tell us about your series about En Esta Casa?
That's actually a good example of the concept of home. My family came. My mother's side of the family came from San Cristobal. I actually have some San Cristobalos here. And they live in this house right in front of the Central Park. And basically my mother grew up there. I grew up there every weekend, every summer vacation. And it was a very distinct place. And after series of events, my grandmother passed away, the two sisters also passed away, so the house was empty, and basically the house was at one point demolished. And that's what I think is extremely hard, but also very interesting, because Sherazade and I were very attached to the house. But we're not really attached to the house, we're attached to the memories of, and what happened in the house. And that's actually comes, my cousins and I always talk about it, and I tell them, guys, you have to hold on to the memory, because that's actually what we can actually take from that. But I was invited to do an exhibition, a piece about Trujillo. And San Cristobal was the town where Trujillo was born. And when he was a dictator, that was his hacienda. Basically, all the land of my family was lost to Trujillo, and that the city was beautiful. My mother tells me stories, my grandmother too, of everything clean, beautiful. It was his most priceless possession. And but my great grandmother happened to be the kindergarten teacher of Trujillo. So when he was a dictator, everybody was afraid of him, but she used to call him Rafaelito. And they would say, oh, Trujillo did this, and I said, I cannot believe what Rafaelito is doing. So everything was Rafaelito. So she basically said, I would never going to call him Generalissimo, because it's Rafaelito. So when he decided that you had to have a plaque in the house that says, in this house, Trujillo is el jefe, she said, I'm not putting any plaque that says that Rafaelito is the boss in this house. Are you crazy? So that was a whole problem with the family, but Trujillo let the house be without the metal plaque that said that he was the boss. My great-grandfather died. So there was a lot of things about that house full of women, because all the men died. And that we know the family didn't suffer any abuses or many losses, only just the land and all the houses. That was the only house that stood for all these times. So I actually I always took pictures documenting the house because I love it. And the piece, it presents images of the house in important days, like the year that Trujillo came into power. At that time, my great-grandfather was the boss of the house. And then when he passed away, my great-grandmother became the boss of the house. So there are images with a little line that says, in this house, blank is the boss. The third day, I believe, is when Trujillo was killed. In that time, Freedom was the boss of the house. When the first baby of the family was born, that was Sherazade, the baby became the boss of the house. And then the other one is when my aunt passed away, because there were three sisters. The first one passed away, she became the boss, because at that time we put a picture of her on the living room. So everybody went to pay respect. And then the other one was when the second one passed away, and the last one when my grandmother passed away, and then the house is no more. Basically, in this house, there is no boss because the house doesn't exist anymore. But it was a very emotional piece that I never wanted to show because I had it for the longest time. But it became also like a healing process for me. The moment that I actually showed it the first time, I kind of realized basically that I have so many good memories in the house that even that I just couldn't not share it, or I couldn't just celebrate it because that's actually a concept of home that doesn't exist. But still, like when I see the pictures, I have this, something of where I belong to. And something that I can actually share with my family too, because it's not my history right now, it's everybody. So I had to actually ask for permission to my aunts and uncles about this piece, because I said, okay, guys, I want to show this piece, I'm okay with it. But if you are not, I can't. But they were. They cried a lot, me too, but it was that concept of, something is this thing that is huge, but you let it go, because it never dies. So that is what I like to do my work. It's this kind of like, ambiguity about how I do things.
From the perspective of the new project that you will be working on, and it's the connection with your family, the reviews, can you tell us about it?
Well, yeah, this is something that Iliana and I, like you can see, we have there is a lot of storytelling in everything we do. We love to tell stories. And as a matter of fact, my name that comes from the Arabian Nights, when my father and my mother were in Venezuela, my father was doing his master, and we live in San Cristobal, in the house of San Cristobal, and they are teachers over there. My mother too, but they are teachers, especially my grandmother. Every time there was like these books they would send from Venezuela and Argentina, that they have these gorgeous illustrations. So I got in the mail, that was a big deal to get, the postcards and the books, but I had to read the books, and I had to add. Like I cannot say, oh mi amor, qué bonito. I have to say, oh mi amor, qué bello. Like I had to. Everything was like that with us. Yeah, it's with theater. In fact, there was an area in the house that was a collection of sharpeners, the pencil sharpeners. And in that area, my two cousins that are now actresses, Iliana and Emilia and I, we used to do plays. I do like big stages, big drawings of everything. We always were doing stuff. And but something special is like Iliana says that it was a house of women. It's full of women. So my father comes along. My father is the first one that comes in. My mother is the first one to get married. So, and then my poor uncle, the only one, that from other set of women that was like the official one from the family, was had his last name from his father, Ubiñas. And when I come in, I am Garcia Ubiñas. And then my other cousins are Ubiñas Perez. And all of a sudden, they are Renville. So her name was, my grandmother's name was like Profesora Guadina Renville Santos. And then in the town of San Cristobal, because my family is very emblematic, founders of the town, very involved in the politics of the town, nobody would say to me, oh, the Garcias or the Viñas. They would say, hey, look, there they go, the Renville girls. So we've been talking a lot about how we have all these different identities, yet we belong to them, And so that conversation and being able to work, we always got along. I mean, I have to say, my happiest day in the planet was when Iliana was born. I was waiting for that baby to come. I was like 3 years old, and I thought she was going to come out of my mother to play. I did not think I had to wait for her to walk and to talk, So anyway, thanks to the gods, as my friend Abigail says here, we got along really well. My cousin came along really well too, so we were like very, very together. So we also, because we're so different, we can sometimes delve in the same kind of things, because the work is gonna take different journeys. Okay, so with this Garcia's Ubiña's situation, then we are feel Sordenville as well. We're thinking in doing a project, about this whole complication. How we, our society,
Just to make it
it's
more,
you have to say, this society is to be questioned. That's for sure. But that's part of my rebelliousness.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess this is one of the questions that I want to sit with you about, right? But Olga and I were talking briefly earlier, and I said, Olga, why don't you ask this question? No, you have to ask the question. Well, here I go. It follows on Marco's question a little bit, because I was thinking about reading your biography and knowing a little bit about your work in relationship to this larger debate right now about Latinx art and Latin American art. Olga and I were having this conversation about a new group that is trying to define Latinx as a space, right, of intervention, as a way of perhaps challenging the overdominance of Latin American art as the only space for our artists to be recognized, right? Because it's the dominant category has been Latin American art, so galleries and I wanted because I know you're represented by Lyle, right? Who is a very interesting person in this conversation, because he's un Dominicano, but he has always defined his space as a Latin American space. And he has always been to the best Latin American art fairs, right? That's where he moves, right? So I wondered, Paulina began to talk about Dominican art, right? So I wondered, and then there's the whole conversation about Caribbean art, right? So there's so many conversations going on about the Dominican York component of both of your work, then the Caribbean element that is very strong, then the Latinx component of Latino art scene. Here we are in a very Latino art space, Puerto Rican Latino art space. And then the Latin American art, right, that you are also recognized, right? You're probably one of the few artists, in a way, that has a feet in both places, but that is very recognized as a Latin American artist. So I don't know, so this conversation about home to trouble in relationship to how these categories, how you're maneuvering through this bundle of categories that are meaningful in that the artists that can more or less maneuver different spaces, it makes a difference, right? Not everybody can maneuver all these different homes so successfully, or are recognized, or are welcomed, right? Yet I think both of you are able, and I wonder if you can talk a little, have done so successfully, or perhaps more successfully than others. So I wonder if you could address that, and how perhaps your work is seen, or how do you, put the Caribbean in the Latin American part, or put the Dominican in the Latino part. Those are very interesting conversations I'd like to hear a bit more about. Thank you.
We can talk forever about that, so let me just go. I'm gonna be good and I'm gonna be short. But basically, oh my God, to navigate all that, yes, it's been a challenge. But it's been such a wonderful challenge because it defines you. It defines a lot of the way I present my work. I detest those little niches, and I detest to be part of the trendy group of the moment. But also I understand that that's part to keep you at bay. They keep you to the Latin American Caribbean ones when they put Caribbean in the group. Okay, is they keep you and they give you this show as a token. It's a political token. Now I don't have to worry about you anymore. Just keep you there. So they play the agenda of the market. It's like, these are the people we want to sell. Then how I've been using and how I see it, really, beyond using, but how I see it, is that the Caribbeanness that I push so much is because I see the Caribbean and as the root, of the American dream. So if you cannot talk about this shape of this North America without talking about the Caribbean, because then you lost. okay? All that diversity that we talk about, we love about, started in the Caribbean. By mistake, maybe, well, who cares? Also, already the people that came from the Spaniards, that the ones that made the first settlement in our countries, were mixed people. The Caribbean, they were Mediterranean. Since when they were white? And it's like, that's another conversation, but anyway. But I usually what I do, like I that's how I present myself, and that's how I present so much of my work, to make it understand that my conversation is universal and global. That it belongs, it goes beyond the Caribbean or even America. I do really say a lot because I see it and I can decode it, and everything I do is after the settlements of the Europeans in this continent. I am fascinated by the contradictions, but definitely that's how I've been able to navigate. I am very against, even when they good to me, many times these divisions and these stories have been good to me because they can see me closely because they study this or that. I do resent that because I think it keeps you at bay.
I hate definition. It's almost like I have to justify myself for being or doing or what I say. So I try to kind of, I understand that they have to exist because we have to kind of document history somehow, and it's good for the art historians and the scholars to kind of have some kind of, some kind of, system to tell what is going on. But you need a GPS almost. I mean, you have to be. I mean, sometimes what I do. I always try to do what I want, if that's actually a privilege that I have. And if I am considered Latinx, Latin that, that's something that I don't even worry too much about because I know that someone's going to give me a name. So I don't worry about that because someone's going to put me somewhere. Someone's going to consider me this or that. So I don't worry about that. I just worry about my work and the fact that the work has to be honest and I'm going to be happy with it. And next time I see it, I'm going to feel happy with it and it says something that is honest about me. And I always work with my curiosity. What interests me. So if it fits in the moment, good. If it doesn't fit, it may fit in 20 years. But I just have to keep doing and working and it will find the way somehow. But I walk away from those things because it makes me a little bit nervous. Because I just start, it's like a club. And I don't like clubs.
I don't like clubs.
And Teresa, I mean, at least I have teams. I like sports, so I can actually have a team. Teresa doesn't even like that. So, but in the artwork, I kind of sit very quietly. Because there's no much I can do.
Running off on that, I think, the current definition of Latinx or Latino is inadequate for understanding Dominican American art. So we're not talking about Dominican art here, we're talking about the diaspora. At the last Latino Art Now, Olga organized a panel that included Sheresade, Iliana Emilian, Julia Santos Salomon, talk about Dominican American women artists. And Carmen Ramos, who's the Latino curator at the Smithsonian, asked a very, I thought, powerful question, which was, what do you think about the absence? So not erasure, not overlooking the absence of Dominican American art in Latino art history. And I don't think you guys gave good answers for that.
I agree with you.
I thought it. I was like, why is there an absence? And I think the way we define Latinx and Latino art relies, of course, on the precedents from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, which I think are inadequate. And I think it's much more productive nowadays to think about, to first expand this definition of Latinx or Latino art that we have, and think about a Caribbean Latinidad that goes beyond Hispanophone, the Hispanophone diaspora. And thinking about New York, there's just such a specific Caribbean diaspora that shapes your so-called home, or however you want to call it, but your community, and the way you identify, the way you embody yourself. But yeah, I find the current definition of Latinx or Latino not productive.
I think that your artists have to play a bigger role in the whole situation, in wanting to, how is it that we want to name what we make and what we do. And that's a decision that all of us as artists have to do. And I am totally against, I mean, in a way, the Latino, Caribbean, this and that. When we come into the States and we're here 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, and we're working, there's a lot of other stuff also in the work that has to do with the embracing of a lot of other culture, music, literature, all of that. And also the home, that situation that we have, because we're here for the first time. You know, it's not like our children are really the ones that are the Americans. So it has to go with all that definition of how do we, everything influences you, and then because everything influences you because of who you are, then you make that, you know, you make that piece of work or whatever. So we have to find a better word that identifies a little bit better our work, because we're making it here in the United States. I mean, that's my feeling, because we're doing it here. It's not like I'm in Puerto Rico or in Mexico or Santo Domingo and I'm doing it over there and I'm being influenced. I brought my culture and I brought all kinds of things that were inside me, and I'm being influenced by a lot of things that are here. And politics is going to play a part in this, and activism and all of that. So I think that the artists have to really come forward and start trying to define what is it that we want to be portrayed because of our work. We can't just let it go and have these people as usual. Start with that. So it starts with us.
The terminology is not the correct one. Obviously, it's a construction for certain purposes, so we need to keep in mind that. For example, I work, my office is, even though I'm based in Washington, D.C., I work with the University of Illinois, Chicago. And in the studies that we've done there for art, 95% of artists in Chicago are born in Latin America. So how do we negotiate that problem of the Latino and the Latin American and the Latinx? So it's something that might lie in certain areas, or also what I'm beginning to see is certain tendency of art history as a discipline in categorizing and following these ideas of area studies, that you have to have that geographical, or that you have to have this ethnic related terminology. And of course it serves certain purposes. But one very clear example about what is Latino, what is Chicano is this. John Noriega put together an exhibition that he took to England. So when it wasn't presented in England, it wasn't Chicano, it was American. And that's something that it's the reality. You may have this identity internally in the US, but once you leave, you're American. So how do we, I think the bigger question about these terms, about these terminologies is, as an art historian, it's having a closer conversation with the artist and find out how they negotiate the many identities that they need to survive, and that goes into the commercial aspect that we were talking with Arlene before, is how do we navigate, or how the artists navigate the market, the contemporary market, and what is the Latino? Is there any benefit for you to be under the Latino term, or is it better to be a global or a contemporary? So what do you think about that?
No, that's what I'm saying, is such a...
It's not something, you know, but there are, in terms of you know, if we think about, Marcos brought up the market, the canon, all these things that make me want to barf. But I'm a fellow at MoMA right now. There's no Latino category to categorize artists. I think I found like 2 Latino artists in the collection. They're not defined as Latino. They're defined, for example, Enrique Chagoya is defined as Mexican, lives US. There's no such thing as Mexican American. I think people don't, I don't know, in general I've heard, you know, academia, as you very well know, is very problematic. My department has issues with this, about how, you know, people ask like, what's the difference between a Mexican American and a Mexican? It's completely ridiculous that this isn't, this is still being asked today. But in terms of the art historical narrative, there's a huge issue with definitions and categorizations, unfortunately. Because when you search for an artist for an exhibition, you're not going to put there's no such thing as Latino at home.